Hello, my name is Yaron. I'm the music director for the Center for Spiritual Living, and I would like to start this morning with a song. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, oh, do-do. Here comes the sun, and I'll say it's alright. Little darling, the smile returning to their faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I'll say it's alright. Little darling, I feel the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I'll say it's alright. Sun, 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 here we come. 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 Little darling, I feel the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I'll say it's alright. I want to invite Dr. Maureen Hoyt and grace us with her presence this morning.
Well, good morning and thank you, Yaron. I am so happy to be here. Good morning, everybody on the live stream or on YouTube, or whether you're watching later on in the afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles under the direction of Reverend Dr. Keith Cox. I am Maureen Hoyt. Although Keith put in the notes, Reverend Dr. Maureen Hoyt, Reverend Dr. Maureen Hoyt, if we want to be specific. It's my honor to be the guest speaker this morning and the guest minister, I guess, for the whole service with and for this beloved community. I feel such a connection to so many of the people who are on Zoom with me this morning, even though I can't see you. I know your names and I know who you are because I know the essence of who you are. So somebody once said a quality life is a life lived by design. And Keith designed a vacation for himself this week. So we want to applaud him for doing that. I think for almost every minister of every denomination, this last 18, 19 months has been really challenging for most of the ministers that I know. And almost all of them could use a sabbatical. Thank you for joining us. It is such a pleasure to fill in and to fill the big shoes of Keith Cox. We come together every Sunday morning to gather and to be in community and be reminded of how to fulfill our vision statement for CSL-LA, which is supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. Let me say that again. Supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. And if you're new to us this morning, you will know that if you continue to watch and participate in this Sunday morning service, you cannot help but have a transformation. I often will say that people do want to be transformed, but they don't want to be inconvenienced. And maybe it is inconvenient to get up on a Sunday morning and watch a Sunday service at 10 o'clock in the morning. But I'm telling you, it will be amazing to see how transformative Dr. Keith's words can be. Every Sunday morning, we take a moment to greet each other through the act of namaste. And it's a Sanskrit word, which in essence means, I bow to you. And it's in the prayer hands that many of us used to probably use when we were kids, when we said our nightly prayers or our morning prayers or whatever ritual you might have had in your religion. But it is a form of greeting, and we use this greeting and honoring of the power that resides within each one of us, the God presence, the spirit, the energy, the force, whatever it is that you choose to call it. But for the purpose of this morning, we're going to call it what it is, the God energy that is within each one of us. So namaste to everyone online this morning. The spirit within me honors and blesses and celebrates the spirit in you, and I receive the same from you. So that's the little ritual that Dr. Keith goes through. So the story of CSL-LA had its origination with Dr. David Walker. Dr. David Walker had started to work in San Bernardino at one point, and when the opportunity came up for him to come to Los Angeles and start a center, he did that. And what he did was just enthrall almost anybody who ever came to hear him. He was a large presence in terms of height, and he was a funny person. He had such a good sense of humor, and we were fast friends for all the years that I've been a minister. And when I took over Creative Thought from him, Creative Thought magazine from him, he wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. And so, not that he was a control freak or anything, but yeah, it was a control freak. And so every issue that I edited, I had to send him a copy of that issue so he could make sure that I was making all the right corrections. And we had some interesting conversations around that. So my history goes back with the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles a long ways. Dr. Walker and I created curriculum together. We were on the Board of Education together. I just loved him and his partner, Cooper. So what we teach in the Science of Mind is that there is one mind, there is one power. And that power is a power for good that every one of us can use. And everyone comes to this power with a level playing field. So our vision statement, again, is supporting individuals finding personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. And what that looks like is it shows up in sometimes obvious ways and sometimes not so obvious ways. It's like sometimes it comes in a blaze of flashing light, and other times it comes on angels' feet. And all of a sudden, when we remember that we haven't held an angry thought toward a person for a significant period of time, that's significant to a spiritual awakening, that we have determined that we are cause to our own effect, and that we have then started on this journey of self-discovery, because that's what the science of mind is for anyone and everyone who comes to it. It is a journey of self-discovery. We perform a ritual at CSL-LA every week called Calling in the Light. And this ritual, unfortunately, we don't have the graphic for it this week, but I feel compelled to still go through the ritual with you. It is, the purpose is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness, and the qualities that we possess are complete expressions of the divine, as Keith would say. So today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We would light the first candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light is for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. The third candle we light for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. The fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. The sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for the quality of love, defined as the self-givingness of spirit through the desire of life to express itself. We light the eighth candle, that which is known as the healing candle, and we ask you just to take a moment and close your eyes and think of anyone that you would like to put silently into the light of the healing flame, to experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine. And the song that we generally use at this part, Yaron, if you would mind.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light, oh love. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. I am love, I am peace in my heart, I am free, I am spirit, I am soul, all together we are whole. Calling in the light, calling overloved. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
Thank you. Now, will you join me, please, in consciousness as I do an invocation to set the tone for this Sunday service? As we close our eyes, we go to that perfect place of peace within, that inner sanctuary that has never been violated and knows nothing outside the pure essence of spirit. And so I recognize the power and presence by means of every person on this live stream today, that we are gathered here by right of consciousness to share this time and space because we are cause to our own effect. We have dressed up and shown up today because there is something that each one of us needs to hear or might want to hear, but don't know that we want to hear it or need to hear it. And so we're open and receptive today to God's living spirit of truth by means of the music that is played and sung today, by means of the message today, by means of the guest performer today, and by means of whatever spark shows up is a divine spark. It has been specifically and uniquely created for each one of us. And so we open up today to a grander idea of what this thing called the science of mind means, what this thing called new thought means. And we allow that part of ourselves to be emboldened by this message and the meaning behind it today. So I just simply allow for this time together to unfold in right and perfect order, knowing that Spirit is in the mix, all is well, as we say together, and so it is. And our guest musician for today, Yaron, will you introduce him for us?
Of course, it's a morning of a lot of firsts. We have John Randall here for the first time, performing on Broadway, television, and concert artists such as Bernadette Peters. He was with American Idol, and the TV show House, many, many things, and we're excited to have him here for the first time. Hi, John.
I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark secret night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbows, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces, people passing by. I hear friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. cry, and I watched them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Beautiful, beautiful, John. Thank you. You picked one of my top 10 favorites for this morning. I always get just a little bit weepy whenever I hear that, and it's so nice to have you this morning. Thank you so much. We'll hear from him again a little bit later. So thanks again to Dr. Keith for asking me to fill his big shoes today. I appreciate his vote of confidence, and I'm glad to be with all of you today. It's kind of feeling like a little bit of a family reunion for me, because there are so many people that I know here at this center from the old days, and we're getting older. We're getting a little bit older, but that's fine. We're still here. Everything's still good. I love that you're online this morning. So the question today is, have you ever had anyone ask you to define God? When I was on the Board of Education with Dr. Walker for Religious Science International all those years ago, I was in charge of the ministerial intensive. That's where the students would come for a week to Asilomar in those days, and they would we would have speakers for roughly 7 hours a day, and the students would sit there and listen. I was in charge of it. And we also had the oral panels for the graduating ministers at that time. And one of the questions that we would ask those newly graduated ministers was to define God. And it was a bit of a trick question. And I'm not saying I'm proud of it, but it was a little bit of a trick question. And for most of us who grew up in other faith traditions, we carried an image of this white-bearded guy in the sky God, with the flowing white robes. The Old Testament God was a judgmental, vengeful God who, if he were mandating such harsh punishments today, would require anger management classes. Now, the tricky part of the question is that we cannot define the ineffable. We simply can't. We cannot define God, but we can define the nature of God. And I know this is something all of us have learned in class, and it's just a repeating something apparently that I needed to hear today. Ernest Holmes used words like omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience to define God, or as synonyms for God, if you will. But today we use words like spirit, the force, the universe, energy, etc., and we know God is equally and everywhere present. That God so loved itself that it needed form to express. And it expresses as you and me. Easy, right? Easy. For some of us who grew up believing in God out there in the heavens somewhere, it's often difficult to remember that God is within each and every one of us. The nature of God is definable. It's love, peace, poise, and power, and all sorts of other qualities of being that we can relate to because we have these qualities as enlightened people. And the moment we begin our journey of self-discovery, that's really when the enlightenment begins. We exhibit those qualities too. And that's what other people find attractive about us. Once we get past the usual physical attraction, there is something about that other person that we find lovable or that we find valuable. And that's the attraction, is the qualities of being. When we really and truly connect with the idea that God isn't out there somewhere, but as Ernest Holmes said, God is hidden within each and every one of us, and it is the last place we think to look. We can fully appreciate the magnitude of this revelation. I am a drop of water in the ocean of consciousness we call God. My drop of water contains all the attributes of God, but I am not all of God. I started in religious science in 1974 with my first Sunday service at Founders Church. Founders Church of Religious Science, which is at 6th and Berendo in Los Angeles. I lived in Pasadena at that time, listening to the wit and wisdom of Dr. William Hornaday. And I remember that first Sunday I went there, I honestly thought I'd met God in person. He was a magnificent speaker, and he had that little crow's nest thing on the side of the platform that he would stand up on. So he loomed large over the whole congregation. And in those days, there were about 2,000 people in the audience. He was a protege of Ernest Holmes, and when he spoke, I listened. It was magical, to say the least. I had the honor of going back to his office and meeting him personally after the service. The people who took me there introduced me to him. And really, I felt like I touched the hand of God. Finally, I was listening to someone who talked about God in a way that I could understand. Sometime later, after we moved to Agora Hills, I started to go to the Religious Science Church on Oso in Canoga Park. Dr. Barnum said that first Sunday, Dr. Barnum, what a joyful man he was. He said, you may not believe everything you hear today, but you may hear something you already believe. And that simple statement kept me coming back over and over and over again. For 3 years, I went to that center. I couldn't get enough. And I believed everything Dr. Barnum said. This was a God that I could wrap my mind around and my heart around, and I never looked back. But life, as it does, gets in the way a little bit. And all things being equal, as the mother of a new baby girl, church was the last thing on my mind until I discovered Terry Cole Whitaker on Sunday mornings. And some of you are of an age probably at 11:30 Sunday morning, Channel 9, Los Angeles. Terry Cole Whitaker was on, and she changed my life. She had no idea the significance of the changes that I felt through her word. And it's interesting how what goes around comes around and how life evolves. We ended up becoming really good friends. And her right arm for the production that she had on Sunday mornings was my friend, Reverend Mark Johnson, who, after she finished her time as in San Diego, he moved to Hawaii, and we became good friends. So it was just like, it's all sort of symbiotic in a way, you know, that when religious scientists attract religious scientists, I think. So she made the science of mind fun and interesting. She regaled us with stories about her demonstrations, and I love her to this day for the really pivotal role that she played in my life, in the lives of the people that I love. So fast forward to 1981, a new young couple, a husband and wife team with a young daughter, came to the Thousand Oaks Church. And of course, they attracted many other young couples and their children. And I wasn't immediately attracted to this couple. However, something happened that got me going back to church to hear this minister. And I'd gone back to work full-time at that point. And my daughter was 4, and she was in a preschool daycare in Woodland Hills, close by my office. My daughter's name is Heather, and her best friend was a little girl the same age named Ashley. And often after preschool, Ashley's mother would take Heather home with her to have a play date with Ashley, and I would pick her up about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Ashley's grandmother, a very youthful 60-year-old, maybe 57-year-old, often watched the girls in the afternoon. They engaged in silly games, one of which was called playing dead. Ashley's grandmother would lie on the floor, play dead, and the two girls would tickle her alive. Then each of the girls would take their turns being dead and get tickled alive. One day, Ashley's grandmother slid to the floor, and no matter how much they tickled her, she didn't come alive. Imagine being at work and getting that frantic call from Ashley's mother and arriving at their home with fire trucks and ambulances and paramedics. And all the way home, Heather kept saying to me, "Mommy, she wouldn't wake up. She wouldn't wake up. Is she dead for real? Am I going to be dead for real too if I get tickled?" And all I could think was, oh, dear God, give me the words to say to help her through this. So the next morning, as I was getting ready for work, Heather came into the bathroom where I was curling my hair. And she overheard a conversation I was having with God. You know, what am I supposed to do with this now? And she looked around, opening the cupboards, looking inside, moving the shower curtain, and looking behind. "God's not here, Mommy, so where is God?" And I laughed a little bit because I gave her the stock and trade answer. You know, God is everywhere. I realized that the incredibly wonderful junior church teachers at Canal Valley CRS could probably handle this a lot better than I could. So that following Sunday, just 3 days after Ashley's grandmother's death, we were back at the church, and we've never looked back. So the God of my understanding and the understanding of my children and my granddaughter is a loving and generous God. You know, not that punitive, judgmental God that I grew up with in my particular faith tradition. Spirit has shown me in so many different ways over the years that when I give over to the God essence within me, my prayers are always answered. But the caveat to that is it's not necessarily in the way that I thought they would. It's been proven over and over again that I can know what I want and maybe even when I want it, but the how it shows up is up to God. A few years ago, the minister in San Jose, Dr. David Bruner, was a workshop instructor for the ministerial intensive. And he spoke to the idea that some people bless us by coming into our lives and some people bless us by leaving. He said, you know, people come, Michael Beckwith said, that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And sometimes the reason they come is short. They're in and out. It's hearts touching hearts, but it's over with quickly. A season sometimes can mean a friendship that is tolerated and not always a healthy friendship for some of us. It isn't about not liking the person, because God is in every one of us, but it may be about not liking the behavior of the person. So David Bruner said that the only way that he could release difficult people is by doing, that we could release difficult people from our lives is by doing a prayer treatment for their highest and farthest. Well, everybody in the class just laughed their heads off because, you know, really, you know, that's all the while blessing them on their journey. You know, we're not sending them somewhere they don't want to go necessarily, but everyone in the class laughed. My God essence understands humor. It does, because I think that sometimes we forget about laughing at ourselves a little bit because of the ridiculousness of what we might be going through. My God essence understands humor. My God essence understands empathy and compassion. My God essence understands not suffering fools gladly. My God doesn't put up with stupidity or ignorance. My God essence sees the good in all people, but condemns their errant behavior. Now, that's I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who said, we have to stop judging. Well, if any of you have ever been a parent, you have to judge righteous judgment on behalf maybe of your children, or maybe on a brother or sister who's acting out in a certain way. So my God essence does not condemn the person, it condemns the behavior of the person. And we've had many opportunities over the last few years to really notice errant behavior in a big way. My God essence blesses those who know when it's time to leave relationships. This is, sometimes my friend Eric used to say, I never left a relationship that didn't have claw marks on it. Well, I think that's true for a lot of us. We think there's something wrong with us when the relationship is over. But again, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I have lifetime friends. My best friend from junior high school and high school, we still talk on a regular basis. And whether she likes it or not, she's becoming a bit of a religious scientist. And it's quite pleasant to have a conversation with her. Alan Watts, the great Zen teacher, said, we are here to play hide and seek with God. Sometimes I'm it, and sometimes I'm not it. This is the human experience. We play hide and seek with God sometimes. Have you ever seen someone acting out in such a way that you wonder if God is in them at all? Sometimes I say to myself, God, I know you're in there somewhere, but it's a darn fine disguise you have on. So for certain people in my life, sometimes their behavior is inconsistent with their perfection. Knowing all the while we are, or I am and you are and we are, works in progress. That doesn't take anything away from the masterpiece that each one of us is. Often I find that God's goodness is running after me and I'm running away from it. Sometimes we need help. We need to stop, turn around, get quiet, and wait for the goodness of God to catch up with us. I think that in times of stress, the tendency is to bolt and run. I learned that very good from my early upbringing. But we don't have to do that anymore. Like I said, God is running after us with its goodness, and we're running away from it. So we stop and wait for God to catch up with us. And that's what prayer work and meditation is all about. I have a couple of stories today that I just love these stories. And forgive me if I've told them to you on another time I've been there, but apparently I needed to hear this one again. An anthropologist showed a game to the children of an African tribe. He placed a basket of delicious fruits near a tree trunk and told them the first child to reach the tree will get the basket. When he gave them the signal, he was surprised to see they were walking together, holding hands, until they reached the tree and all shared in the fruit. When he asked, why did you do that when every one of you could have had the whole basket for yourself? They answered with astonishment, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy while the rest are miserable? Ubuntu in their civilization means I am because we are. Now that's, to me, the most perfect definition of God, of spirit. The tribe knows the secret of happiness that has been lost in many societies that transcend them and which consider themselves civilized societies. The simplicity of these children and their awareness of kindness and generosity, we could take lessons from. The control of the affairs of our life is from within, not from without. And again, it's what is hidden in us, the God essence, as Ernest said, we are left to discover and use for ourselves. If we only knew to use God and let God use us for our highest and best, wouldn't life be so much easier? But we get our bloated nothingness in the way a lot of the times. So what Emerson said, we have to get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. We are meant to live superlative lives. And the way we do this is by letting Spirit rather have its way with us. We announce what we desire and let God show it to us in a way we can understand. That's one of my favorite awarenesses about this teaching. All my answers always come to me in a way that I can understand. God always shows me the way at the level of my deepest understanding and unfailing in its generosity, so that it becomes a present reality in my life. It happens over and over again. I don't have to make anything happen. I just simply state my desire and it shows up for me. In the beginning, my science of mind God was the sliver of light that Mark Nepo talks about. But today and most days, for me, this sliver of the beginning simply shines at the center of all my darkness, incubating its strength, as Mark Nepo says, waiting as it did before our birth. It can wait years for us to hear it, but this God is patient, and it waits years for us to hear it, to receive it, to embrace it. We may hear it, but sometimes it takes a brick upside the head for us to really receive it and to embrace it. It is as patient as time itself. You know, I felt in those moments when giving and receiving become one. It's giving, receiving. It's not cause and effect, it's cause effect. It's all one. They may be the polar opposites in the human experience, but really, you can't have one without the other. I felt that at the birth of both of my children. And my granddaughter, I was there when she was born as well. And I felt it at the deathbed of my mother and my friend Ann Hubbard. I felt it in the joy and the sadness when life went right and when life appeared to go wrong. But it was only an appearance, because God had something bigger and better in store for me. And I'll close with this story. The master Persian poet Hafiz knew something beautiful about God. He said, "I am a hole in the flute that God's breath moves through. Listen to this music." And speaking of music, Tina Turner said, "The real power behind any success I have now is something I found within myself, something that's in all of us, I think. A little piece of God just waiting to be discovered." Listen to your music today and every day, because when we do, there's nothing that we can't accomplish, there's nothing that we can't be, and there's nothing that we can't have, knowing that with God, all things are possible. I want to welcome back John Randall, our guest artist for the day. John, please take it away.
If ever I see your smiling face, I have to smile myself because I love you. Yes, I do. And when you give me that pretty little power, turns me inside out. There's something about you, baby, I don't know. Isn't it amazing a man like me can feel this way? Tell me how much longer it can grow stronger every day. Oh, how much longer? I thought I was in love a couple of times before, with a girl next door. But that wasn't long before I met you, and I'm sure that I won't forget you. And I thank my lucky stars that you are who you are, and not just another lovely lady sent down to break my heart. Isn't it amazing a man like me can feel this way? Tell me how much longer it can grow stronger every day. Yeah. How much longer? No one can tell me that I'm doing wrong today. Whenever I see you smile at me, no one can tell me that I'm doing wrong today. Whenever I see you smile at me, no one can tell me that I'm doing wrong today. Whenever I see you smile at me. Tell me that I'm doing wrong today. Whenever I see you smile at me.
Thank you, John Randall. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Your song totally speaks to the God essence in us showing up in a big way. That's just wonderful. Look at all the people who are clapping. Give them some love. Yeah.
Thank
Give
you.
them some love. Thank you, John.
My
I hope
pleasure.
to see you again another time.
Likewise.
Good. Okay, so I just want to comment a little bit. I think Travis has a slide about conscious giving. And it would be interesting for me today because I'm in the middle of teaching a prosperity class at Granada Hills right now on Tuesday nights. And it's half on Zoom and half in person. And it's sort of a beta test to see how that would work for teaching the fall classes. I'm telling you, it brings up all my insecurities about not being technologically advanced. So conscious giving, just the word conscious there is an important aspect to when we contribute to our spiritual center. And, why we do that has to be determined from a heart-centered place. There are various ways, as Travis will show in a minute with the screen, that one can contribute to CSL-LA. And through this pandemic, it's interesting that giving has been pretty consistent throughout our organization. So I just want to announce gratefully to all of you who have kept up your conscious giving during this time. The thing about giving where we're spiritually fed means so much to me, and I'm a tither. When I write a check, sometimes it's $253.21. I do it to the penny, simply because I embrace what Edwin Gaines taught me over 30 years ago. And tithing, finding $20 bill in a sweater that I put on the other day. I know a sweater, but I have the air cranked down to 68 degrees and I get cold, but I'd rather be cold than hot. So I found a $20 bill in my sweater pocket. So that I got to tithe on too. So I tithe on all unexpected income. I tithe on my Social Security. I tithe on my retirement. I tithe on everything because I didn't come here to practice mastery over money. I came here to practice mastery over other things, but not money. So I just want to thank you for your consistent conscious giving to the center. And Travis, do you have that slide where people can see how to contribute?
Yes, ma'am, coming now.
So, all these different ways that you can contribute. You've probably been doing it all along, so it's like second nature to you now. And they still accept checks at the address where the church office is. And Keith asked me specifically not to announce his phone number, so I won't do that. But everyone knows that that can be done privately for those of you who are watching on the screen. So there you go. Thank you very much, Travis. Thank you. So, Yaron, you have a song that you're going to sing for us, a Daniel Nahmod song, right?
Yeah, the Love Is My Decision.
Good. I love that song.
It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, source will show me how. Love is my decision, yeah, my decision, right here, right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just to kind of set things with your contribution, I know I don't see it on here, but if you'll repeat after me, shoot, what did I do here? If you'll repeat after me, the affirmation, you don't have to unmute yourselves, just do it to yourself. Gosh, never mind. I can't bring it to the consciousness. That's what age does for us a little bit sometimes. But let me do this. I want to thank John, please, for being here. Give him a little bit of love. I want to thank Yaron for his contribution today. And I most especially want to thank Travis Smith, the audio technician who has the patience of Job, our social media assistant, Robert Hensley, and the congregation, the entire congregation of CSL-LA. You're a blessing for not keeping the science of mind to yourself, but for taking it out into the community and letting people know that this teaching worked for you and it'll work for other people as well. So I'd like to do a closing treatment just to sort of tie things up a little bit, and I'll stay on the Zoom call for just a couple of minutes after it's over with. And thank you all for being here today. I've enjoyed filling in, and feels like a family reunion, as I said earlier. So going within again to that perfect place of peace, knowing there is one life. That life is God's life, that life is my life, and that life is perfect right here and right now. Whatever it is today that may be going on for anyone in the realm of my voice, whether it's a challenge of any kind whatsoever, know that the power and presence of Spirit is right here, right now, running after us. That presence is all pervasive, that it moves in and through us in a way in which we can use to our benefit. So whatever it is that might be going on, whatever challenges might be occurring, whatever is going on in the world today, surrender to a greater idea and make known the fact that there is peace and tranquility at the level of spirit. And so that's the safe place that we get to go today, knowing that in that safe place, all is well. God is in the mix, and the day progresses in peace and serenity. And so I know that this precious time we've had together this morning, this very, very precious time, has been definitely by design and not by default. And the design of our experience this morning is to know a greater idea of God by means of ourselves. Not anything out there, not anything someone else can do for us or be for us, but what we are for ourselves. And so I know this to be the truth today as I joyfully receive and give thanks. I release my word to the law, knowing it is done and complete in the mind of God. As we say together, and so it is. Amen.